Civilizations Museum of Singapore. We hope you're having a great Friday so far and that you're staying safe and well. We're going live soon with conversations, fashion in Singapore, the past, present, and future very soon. We're starting at 3 p.m., which is about 5 minutes time. In the meantime, do say hi and tell us where you're from in the comments section. If you have just joined us, there will be music playing in the background until we are ready to begin. See you very soon. A very good afternoon to all tuning in. Welcome to Conversations, Fashion in Singapore, the Past, Present and Future. This is the fourth and last 2020 installment of the Asian Civilizations Museum's bi-monthly online series of informal discussions on art-related topics. We welcome your questions or comments. Please post them in the comments section, and we'll select a few to share with everyone. I'm Jackie Yong, Curator of Fashion and Textiles at the Asian Civilizations Museum and Peranakan Museum. With me today, I have my fellow colleagues who are managing everything behind the scenes, working very hard to keep this program running smoothly. And of course, today, together with my fellow speakers, we are taking a closer look at the fashion landscape in Singapore from the museum, education, and industry perspectives. I'm delighted today to be with these two speakers today. They are Ceci Henistrosa, Head of the School of Fashion from LaSalle College of the Arts, and Leonard Chu, Director of Design Resource Development from the Textiles and Fashion Federation, or TEF. We will be sharing some of our perspectives in our respective areas of work and collaborative projects and our hopes for fashion in Singapore in 2021 and beyond. So hello, Ceci and Leonard.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Jackie.
Hello.
Yeah, please do, I think, give a short introduction about yourself, what you do, and I'm sure the audience would like to know what do you work with at where you are. So perhaps maybe we can start with Ceci.
Well, Jackie, I'm a trained fashion curator, and I'm the head of the School of Fashion at LaSalle College of the Arts. And as a fashion curator, I'm interested in the tangible and intangible heritage and how to develop new design languages derived from different cultures. And as you know, I'm known for my work with Frida Kahlo's wardrobe that I will discuss later. And now I pass it to Leonard.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Hi, everyone. My name is Leonard Augustine Chu. I work for the Textile and Fashion Federation as the Director of Design Resource Development. Here at TAF, we support and encourage our industry, local fashion industry in Singapore, and play a key part in that with my colleagues here at TAF. Outside of that, I have a Master in Fine Arts in Costume Design, and I used to work in New York City for the New York City Ballet as the principal shopper for the costume atelier there. I'm also a bespoke tailor and draper, textile expert, and I also lecture actually at LaSalle on fashion history and vintage fashion, which is a passion of mine. Back to you, Jackie.
Okay, and then as for me, of course, as Curator of Fashion and Textiles from ACM and the Vna Museum, I recently curated the special exhibition Poor-Pay Chinese Art and Couture at ACM, and also ACM's new permanent gallery of fashion and textiles that we will talk about a bit later. I did my master's in art history at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London, and I joined the museum about 10 years ago actually as the Peranakan curator. And over time, my research curiosity in our good collection of cross-cultural Peranakan fashion and textiles expanded more broadly to across Asia. And I'm very glad today to be part of ACM's recent shift towards fashion history, as I do believe in the power of fashion objects and studies to create a better understanding and respect for people in Asia and beyond. And as ACM joins the larger fashion ecosystem, we also want to play our part to support others and be a platform for conversations like the one happening right now. So moving on into our first topic, I think our audience today will be quite keen to find out more about the type of work our speakers and their institutions do to contribute to the larger fashion scene here. Maybe could we have Ceci start and share more about the perspective of her perspective of how Singapore fashion has developed and changed while you have been with LaSalle. Ceci, please.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you everyone for being here. Well, Jackie, I think that Singapore has evolved greatly in the past years. I think we're very, very strong in areas such as image making, fashion films, marketing and branding, and even curatorial practice, which I feel are areas that are usually overlooked. We're usually concentrating on fashion design as the main component of a fashion ecosystem. And while I think the making part of fashion design is very important, I also think we should celebrate more other areas in fashion, because at the end of the day, we are a marketing economy here in Singapore, and we could really, really capitalize from these other areas. So for example, I would like to tell you a little bit about the work we're doing at LaSalle. So in the School of Fashion, we have 3 pillars: the future of crafts, sustainability, and entrepreneurship. And I believe that the more we understand our crafts and our materials around the region better, the more capable we will be. We will articulate contemporary design in a fashion language from this region. So I wanted to show you some examples of some of the works we're developing with our students and how this vision is portrayed by our students at LaSalle. So these students recently won prizes in London and in Paris, and they're dealing with very important topics revolving around sustainability, identity, and textiles innovation. So can we show Hakim's? So we have his slide there. Okay, so as I was saying, a lot of our students are dealing with gender identity issues and diversity issues in fashion. So for example, Hakim here was interested in looking at the Malay female identity in Singapore. And his works were selected for a photography competition called Blurring the Lines in Paris. If we move on to Felicia Agata, Okay, so Felicia's works, she works in the area of fashion innovation, and she created a very, very interesting material that cools you down the minute it gets in touch with your human fluids. So Felicia, for example, won the Innovation Concept Award at Graduate Fashion Week in London. And I would like to share with you the work of Kelvin Ng. So Kelvin was dealing with current debates around sustainability and exclusivity. And he won also the Conscious Fashion Award in London, which is a very important sustainability award. His works have been selected to be shown at the Architectural Biennale in Venice for 2021. So Jackie and Leonard, as you can see from our education perspective, we're really trying to prepare the next generation of leaders, not only the people who will be leading the fashion industry in Singapore, but also fashion globally. And in these cases I'm presenting to you, we can show that we're already representing Singapore at a global stage.
Wow, I'm impressed by what LaSalle students have expressed and achieved while at school. You know, I do suppose that this is really because they are under the very good hands of and guidance of their teachers, so say yourself, whose strong curatorial practice is traveling the world. So can you share more about your amazing Frida Kahlo exhibition, please?
Well, I mean, as I was saying, I'm known for the exhibition of Mexican artist wardrobe. Appearances Can Be Deceiving, the dresses of Frida Kahlo, that was presented in Mexico at the Vna Museum. We can show the next slide of the mannequins. I then co-curated the blockbuster exhibition, Frida Kahlo Making Herself Up, at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And if we show the next slide, you will see the prosthetics room, which was a very, very special room for me, because I was dealing with the idea of exhibiting fashion and disability in the exhibition context, and following this exhibition and my interest in creating new narratives in the exhibition space revolving around this idea of diversity. So I am currently reading for my PhD at London College of Fashion, focusing on fashion curation, prosthetics, and fashion and disability. So I can share a little bit about what happened during COVID-19 for this specific exhibition in San Francisco. Let me see, can we show the slide of the show in San Francisco? Is there? Okay. So following, I mean, this show has been presented at the Vna and then later in New York, and now it's in San Francisco. But the show in San Francisco was very, very difficult during COVID, because we had to close the museum right after we finished installing on the 14th of March. And then we managed to reopen 6 months later, only in September. And now we had to close the exhibition again because of COVID in San Francisco. But I guess like this has taken us to think, I guess, in our industries, in fashion and in the arts and in culture in general, on how to deal with it. So, for example, in our case, I think all of us are devoting a lot of our time to on Zoom and trying to reach our audiences. So I can just share what happened to us. So, for example, I was not very happy to create the typical digital tour for this exhibition, because in the case of Kahlo, I feel her work is so much about the female body and about the female experience, and it's very corporal, and you really need the experience in the presence in front of the work. So, but then the Young proposed us to do, a film, some sort of tour, but it was like a documentary film with a young film director called Benjamin Michael, who is from San Francisco. And we created this tour exhibition that was really interesting and very evocative. And I wanted to include all the voices of the people who work with us. So you listen to my voice and our curatorial advisor, Ganit and Corey, etc. So Jackie, I guess you're dealing with the same issues and learn are the same, but it's kind of us finding creative ways and new ways to really communicate with our audiences and just become more creative and intelligent, I guess, and agile.
Well, really thank you, Cersei, for this fascinating share on your creative process of your curatorial practice. I have to say that I was really blown away when I saw your show at the VNA. And
Thank you.
I think it's amazing how you continue to shape the show differently to each museum venue according to their different audiences every time you travel around the world. And I also appreciate, I think the audiences, appreciate your reflections today about how the San Francisco chapter of your show, of course, had to adapt to this very peculiar year. I do think that at the heart of museum experiences are intimate encounters with objects, and it has been very interesting for me to observe and learn how curators around the world are adapting to much of to this year to try to share the experience as much as we can virtually. I have to say I saw that video. So what Cersei is trying to say is that instead of the usual kind of a curator tour of the exhibition, they had a filmmaker come in to weave together the voices of different team members into the video. If you have not seen it, I think I would highly encourage the video. Very, very interesting. And again, food for thought for how we might create more engaging curator tours for our exhibitions, right? So next, I also thought to, of course, invite Leonard to share more about TEF's experiences in supporting the industry here, and of course, maybe some of the challenges or opportunities in this very difficult year. And of course, as Leonard mentioned, he himself has a very interesting and exciting creative practice as costume designer. So Leonard, please.
Yeah. I just want to say, while they're changing over the slides, that I was actually in London when your show was at the VNA, Cersei, and I could not get in because it was sold out for weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
Yes.
It was completely sold out. And then I moved back. That was when I was moving back to Singapore. And then I moved back to Singapore and I met the curator. I was like, okay, I have the best deal.
Oh no! Well, we will have to get. We can catch it in Paris, 2022.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know. I don't even know if I can say this.
Fingers crossed.
Well, you hear it first on our ACM Conversations program.
Exactly.
So, do we have the TAF slide?
Yeah. Can we flash the TAF slides next, please?
Yes. Thank you. So hi everyone, I work for TAF. TAF is short for the Textile and Fashion Federation of Singapore. We are the official trade association for Singapore's fashion industry. We've been around since 1964. So it's very, very old. It's about 56 years old, something like that. And right now we take leadership and we build capabilities in trying to make Singapore an innovative fashion hub, according to our 3 pillars. So as you heard, Cersei's 3 pillars for LaSalle overlap incredibly with our 3 pillars, which is a fantastic alignment, I think. So our pillars are innovation and technology in fashion, sustainability in fashion, and Asian craftsmanship. These are the 3 kind of focus areas that we loosely base our projects and initiatives on, and what we think Singapore businesses can really leverage on to make a difference regionally and globally. We also have changed slightly. That's very exciting. In the last 3 years, we've had a lot of initiatives that have really tried to position TAF as a forefront, as a thought leader in pushing this industry to become more relevant, more scalable, more international. Our constitution was changed after over 50 years to include now lifestyle, beauty, fashion tech. Previously, you could only be part of our community if you were a retailer, a manufacturer, or a designer. Now, as long as you're part of the fashion ecosystem and network, we consider you as part of the community and someone who is essential to the ecosystem. Can I have the next slide, please? I think, yes. So before that, sorry. So essentially we are a vibrant group of business leaders, over 210 of us right now, that are passionate, engaged business leaders that look at innovative, sustainable fashion in Asia. On the sides, you can see photos of some of our members, old designers, new designers, as well as consultants, tailors, the people in government are all members. LaSalle itself is a member, ACM is a member as well. And we've also opened up membership to individuals. So anybody who's a fashion enthusiast, a model, budding designer who doesn't yet have a company, you can actually join the association as a member and be part of the ecosystem. We'd love to have more people as professional members. Next slide, please. So what have we been doing to try to achieve our vision in terms of creating an innovation fashion hub here? Well, we have so many initiatives. I won't bore you in too much detail with them. You can find them all on our website, taf.org.sg. But in brief, we have the Cocoon Space, which is where I am today. It's an atelier space housed within a co-working space for right in the heart of Orchard Road for creative people to come together. We have the Bridge, which is our fashion incubator, which takes some really exciting businesses in 3 months and just packs them with consultancies and lessons and seminars and help them grow and scale. We have shopping opportunities. So anybody out there who's a consumer who wants to engage in fashion in Singapore from a consumer point of view, we really do need you. Design Orchard is our retail showcase on the first floor of the Design Orchard building here in Orchard. And we have our retail platform, oneorchard.store, which is actually the address of the retail platform. You can just type oneorchard.store into your browser and you can shop local designs and local products. And then alongside with that, we have our design competition, Singapore Stories, our talk series, TAF Talks, another panel series, TAF Industry Insights, and a network of resources and information and tools for designers and businesses to grow their brands. And this is just, I would say, about half of what we do. I just couldn't fit it all into a slide. And the last slide is next is our network. So of course we can't do this alone. And it shocked me to put this slide together because I was like, oh, I can't believe I just ran out of space for logos. It just kept on packing it in. But you can see that LaSalle is a partner. Asian Civilizations Museum is a beautiful key partner of ours and the reason I'm here today. And we work with schools, government agencies, other trade associations, international bodies. We are trying to build a web of interconnected players so that we can rely on each other in this ecosystem to build, to scale, to internationalize, because we don't believe we can do it alone. And helping LaSalle, helping ACM helps TAF as well. A rising tide raises all boats, is what we like to say. So that's my introduction. Did you want to talk, Jackie, maybe about COVID, or is that something we chat about later?
I think we could talk about it if it fits in with. I think you also mentioned about sharing your own personal creative projects. Would that be a better frame to talk about how
exactly tell us
impacted your personal practice? Because I think that that your practice, I think really, I'm very sure gives you a greater understanding of the partners that you work with, of like designers and other creators that TAF stands for, and therefore in sharing your personal experience through COVID, I think it might be an interesting window to understand what's happening with the rest of them.
You know, sometimes I forget that I do other things apart from TAF. So you have to remind me that I do things. I was like, yes, I do things. So I do have creative projects. I think I also put it in a slide. So as everyone knows, I'm a costume designer. The last year I managed to work with a bunch of theater companies, including Pandemonium, Wild Rice, Checkpoint Theater, SRT. I actually designed a show at LaSalle for the theater department. Alas, this year everything has kind of dwindled for the arts, which is quite unfortunate for our friends and arts practitioners. Of course, we really hope that will come back to the fore. I had a series of really exciting projects lined up this year. I think about 5 projects that were all had to be scrapped. So it really is a tough time for the arts industry. I would encourage anybody out there who enjoys watching theatre and enjoys the arts practitioners to find different ways to support them. They're all trying to make life go on. So I would highly encourage you to do shopping, things like Pasta Glamour. All the artists have their own kind of little hustles on the side. So I would encourage everyone to do that. I am certainly looking forward to being back in the theatre. Here on my costume design side, I have work that I've done in the past. So that was Urinetown, if anybody caught it, with Pandemonium. I designed that. That was super fun. And then below that is the American Ballet Theatre Fall campaign video, which I designed on a rooftop with Ezra Hurwitz, the director. So that was also fabulous. What has managed to keep going on, because Zoom exists, is my lectures. So I have been fortunate enough to lecture at the National Library a couple of times, the Library at Orchard a couple of times, and one of my favorite highlights in each semester is my lecture at LaSalle, where I work with Nadia on the Fashion and Identity course, and I give just one single lecture called the Menswear Edition, where I talk about menswear and historical menswear and the evolution of menswear and identity. So those lectures, they keep me close to the ground. I get to meet the students at LaSalle, hear from them what they're interested in, how they're dealing with COVID as a world. And then also it's nice to see people such as yourselves, our audience today, attend things and try and attend lectures and conversations over the web. So that's good. That's a new normal, I suppose, different from the way we used to work, but we managed to keep going. And then the last creative project I have is actually a personal thing, which is I make and sell my own masks. Personally, I was frustrated with the lack of options out there, as well as lack of research for some people. They don't really consider what is good to use from a safety standpoint. So the masks I make are for sale. Jackie herself, I think, has a mask of mine. They're made of pure cotton on both layers. I buy the fabric not from a wholesaler, but from a boutique in Chinatown, because I want to support a local fabric business who is suffering during COVID. The masks are now, I used to do it myself, but I outsourced it to a local seamstress who used to do fashion prototyping and then also had no work because of COVID. So I'm happy to be able to give her work as well. And I try and incorporate all the things we do at TAF into this little project of mine. I try and support local businesses. I try and give people good products for a fair price. And then I try and think about sustainability as well. So everything is only made to order. I don't stock excess. I don't throw away things. And the point of a fabric mask is that you're not contributing to waste. You're not constantly using masks and then throwing it away. And there's no pocket for the filter because the double layer of cotton is safe enough. So I was managing to take all these lessons that we've learned, I think, from our partners and from the way the world has evolved, and really put it into this little project of my own. And at the same time, it helps me understand how fashion businesses are suffering in this current time. So yeah, those are my side gigs.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Landon, for
Jackie,
sharing. I'm amazed how much you can do on the side, really on top of all the work that TAF does to support the industry. As you say, I think I do think TAF is doing very important work to bring together as much partners in Singapore to present a united, stronger front internationally, just like how I think LaSalle is also positioned in a way serving our community in Singapore, but really positioned globally. I think similarly, moving on to what ACM is doing, I think we are very similar in the sense that while we start with what we have in Singapore, we really try to think how we serve, how we can position ourselves internationally with other fashion museums out there. So our modest permanent gallery on fashion and textiles opened in April, and it's one of 3 galleries on the 3rd floor on materials and design. The other 2 galleries are on jewelry and ceramics. So the galleries reflects, I think, a new spotlight on the decorative arts at ACM and how ACM recognizes fashion as an art form now in our museums. We have been revamping the entire museum floor by floor over 5 years to move from a geographical to a thematic understanding of Asia. Together with the themes of trade on the 1st floor, Faith and Belief on the second floor, we want to present diverse stories of Asia, focusing on the connections with one another as well as the world. We use the term Asia in fashion rather than Asian fashion or fashion in Asia at ACM, because Asian fashion means that the materials, the design, the wearer, or the designer are clearly purely Asian all the time, and that of course can be problematic. Fashion in Asia, however, limits study to what is happening to fashion within the geographical boundaries of Asia. So in short, at ACM, we look at Asia in fashion, which is global fashion history with narratives that are centered on Asia. And next slide, please. We also deliberately use the term fashion rather than just textiles for our new permanent gallery. In general, museums in the West tend to use the term fashion for their galleries, while museums in Asia tend to go for textiles. So the term fashion, of course, involves the concept of time and change for textiles on the body, and our gallery intends to show that the term fashion can be applied to the study of dress in urban Asia. Our first display, which is what you see on screen now, shows how we use the term fashion for Chinese dress from the late Qing period to 1976, as Chinese fashion is definitely not unchanging, not static, and not just traditional. Another key theme for this display is that Chinese dress is not pure. As with the ACM's emphasis on connections around the world, even as we look at what we see now, which is the three sartorial icons of Chinese fashion, which continue to inspire designers today. We see the dragon robe on the right, qipao on the left, and the maosu in the center. All these icons today, they actually reflect decades or centuries of cross-cultural influences. So next slide, please. So of course, as Cersei was talking about, I think we also had our challenges in putting up this exhibition. We finished installing the gallery 3 days before the circuit breaker or the lockdown in Singapore. And in the last week before we completed installation, we had to work on split teams, and we had to do the installation through Zoom, kind of a bit more to the left, please, a bit more to the right, like to our team who's on site. So that was quite interesting experience. And after we opened, we had to be creative, how to bring our galleries beyond the walls for our audiences to experience wherever they are. So as with many museums around the world, we tried different things. So we rolled out a series of highlight audio and video tours. And we also produced 3D twins or highlights of our highlights using augmented reality. So on the right, you see this qipao that you can view 360 even in your house, even in the comfort of your homes. We also scan the galleries. So what you see in the center is the fashion gallery scan, so that you can visit our galleries virtually. The museum is very aware that hybrid ways of presentation, as Cersei was saying, both physically and virtually, is our shared new normal. So of course, I do believe that museums around the world still feel that the best experience is still a physical visit, where you can see the exquisite craftsmanship of the pieces up close. Just a little tip for the fashion gallery, I actually work with our local sound artist Zai Tang on on a soundscape inspired by the pieces on display, and you can only hear that if you go to ACM. Right now, what you see is another virtual initiative that we created this year, which is a condensed version of our first special exhibition on contemporary fashion called Guopei Chinese Art and Couture. This exhibition won it won the Best Design Exhibition at the Global Fine Arts Awards in April, and we thought to continue to find ways to share it with our audience online. The next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. And finally, I think COVID-19, as we have talked about so far, has really brought home the point of staying connected with our fashion and museum partners. So I think a lot of us would know that many conferences have gone online, including those for Fashion and Textiles Museum. And I recently participated in one organized by the Queen Sirikit Museum of Textiles in Bangkok, which is on cross-cultural dress and textiles. So speakers across Asia, again, we spoke about this. We spoke about new virtual ways to present and share about fashion and textiles to different audiences, including our students. So in partnership also with the French Embassy of Singapore, we organized a talk about Asian fashion last month as part of their festival called Voila. And the intention of the talk, of course, was also to kind of stay connected with our museum partners and designers abroad. The speakers included Andrew Geng, who is a Singaporean, Paris-based fashion designer, and Aurelie Samuel, who is the curator of the Vna Museum. And we spoke about the impact of Asia in Yves Saint Laurent's works, Andrew's works, and I also shared a bit about what we were doing in Singapore to support the idea of Asia in fashion. So a museum is fundamentally here, of course, to support a wide range of communities. And so finally, our chat today here is intended to spotlight our local partners here, but the work that we do both here as well as internationally. So I see a lot of synergy, as I mentioned so far in our sharing. And I think we will all agree that COVID-19 has really highlighted that it's very essential for different organizations to work together, to synergize, to have a greater impact on our industry. And in this direction, I think ACM is really happy, very excited this year that we were, despite the current situation, we were able to work very closely with TEF and LaSalle on two exciting projects. So with TEF, the project is called, of course, Singapore Stories, owned by TEF. And of course, with LaSalle, we invited LaSalle to join us on to do a community exhibition called SG Fashion Now. So maybe without further ado, I thought I would share a bit more, perhaps first about the LaSalle collaboration, whereby we invited Cersei and the School of Fashion to work with us. So this year, we invited through Cersei, the School of Fashion, to curate this exhibition of 8 looks by 8 designers on the theme of Singapore Fashion Now. The community exhibition will open in June next year in our contemporary gallery. And through this project, we wanted to support fashion designers and students here and to contribute to the national discussion in Singapore of Singapore fashion in the context of Asian fashion, and very importantly, with an emphasis on craftsmanship. So we asked the students to create proposals of what the best of Singapore fashion means to them, and to encourage them to think more broadly about Singapore's history as a multicultural migrant port city that connects Asia and the world. And we asked them to select designers who are based not only in Singapore, but they could also be Singaporeans abroad. We also talked very importantly about how the designer should still be in business. I think it's quite, of course, it's quite sad and a sad reality that COVID has caused many designers, the business for many designers is affected their business. And so in this show, we wanted to celebrate the tenacity and the creativity of designers who are trying their best to thrive in a very challenging industry in a very difficult year. And the groups then pitched their proposals to a judging panel with a wide range of expertise. Of course, at the top, we have Cersei, who is here with us today. And below her picture, we have Ms. Ho Simang, who brings with her the industry perspective as CEO of TEF. And we also invited Ms. Jean Lee, who brings experiences organizing and marketing 10 years of Singapore Fashion Week. Finally, the last judge is Mr. Kenny Ting, who is the museum director, and he brings with him the museum point of view. Next, of course, I want to invite Cersei to share more about this collaboration from the perspective of LaSalle, and also, of course, more about the concept of the very exciting winning student proposal. Yeah, Cersei,
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Well, we do put a lot of emphasis in curatorial practice at the School of Fashion at LaSalle, not only because of my own background as a fashion curator, but for me, curatorial practice is a skill that you can not only cascade into the exhibition context, but through other mediums like film, like photography, and design collections. For this specific project, I was really, really excited because the museum was very open to train also future curators. And now that the ACM is bringing more fashion into the program, it's also very exciting for us, of course, at LaSalle. And so we run this specific brief as part of our curatorial workshop at level 3. So we put it within the curriculum. And I run this curatorial workshop with my colleague Daniela Morasterio Stan. And for us, it's very, very important that our students understand how to use fashion and garments and materials to tell powerful visual narratives. So in this specific project, also we had Nadia Wan working with us, because Nadia is also doing her PhD more focused on Singaporean fashion. And but yes, I'm very happy to say that the students' proposals were.
Could we go to the next slide, please? Yeah.
We're very grounded. I mean, they were academically sound and creatively, and they thought about the whole exhibition as a 360. And for us, it's also very important for the students to understand that 360 lens in curatorial practice, and the way we tell the narratives and the visual narratives at La Salle as well, or at the School of Fashion, is looking at different aspects that go from history of arts, history of fashion. You need the lens, as you know, Jackie, of the anthropologist, of the historian, of the art historian, different lenses, so that we can tell these narratives in compelling ways. And for me, again, the exhibition space plays a main role to change perceptions, to discuss other topics around diversity, and to establish a close relationship with our audiences.
Yeah, I must say that when the students presented to the judges and also to the ACM team staff, we were really very impressed by the amount of thought that had gone in, and they clearly understood that in curating an exhibition for a museum, it's a very different venue from, say, creating this exhibition in other venues or, say, in a shopping mall. So I could tell we were really very happy to see that their proposal really took that into consideration. And we really liked that the theme for the winning proposal was about craftsmanship, because that fundamentally, I think, is what museums really cherish, that we really treasure these objects, or these fabulous objects of dress that really show the best of craftsmanship through the years. And I think, adding on to what Cersei said, we were also impressed that they also it was a 360 approach, and even the programs were very thoughtful to try to get visitors to experience the different dimensions of making an object of dress. So we're really excited to see that come into completion in June next year. And again, I think Cersei and I talk about this. When people hear that we are collaborating with La Salle, they immediately assume that, oh, this exhibition will be of student designs. And we said no, the students are actually coming in as fashion curators this time. And I like what Cersei was sharing, that really curatorial practice doesn't mean that you're just a curator. Really, it's really looking at things at a 360 point of view. And so do stay tuned for mid-June. I think of course, I would really love to share, but I can't at this moment, who the 8 designers are and their works, which we will review more next year. Have I left out anything, Cersei, that you want to add?
No, I think it's great. It's just I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much, because I think the fact that a museum, a national museum like the Asian Civilizations Museum, devotes a space for the students to launch their first curatorial project, I think it's amazing. I haven't seen that even in Europe, and that's very forward-looking. And I hope that from Singapore we can set the example to use the museum space to really encourage more producers, more curators, and as a space to articulate different dialogues among ourselves. And of course, our audiences. For me, the audiences are everything. And we have to create intelligent exhibitions that are interesting, that are imaginative, that we can share what we do through fashion.
Well, at ACM, we have to say thank you to you and your students, I think, for accepting the invitation, because it is, I think, something that we think is very worthwhile doing at ACM. I think I have to say, like, when the students were sharing, I think their perspective as young fashion students, I think really it keeps us, I think, thinking as practicing curators, what our audiences want to see and what they are also thinking. So I think it was quite fascinating for me to hear like their point of view. So I think I learned a lot from them as well. So I think it's a two-way relationship, and of course we are hoping to see how we can perhaps work with LaSalle more on this similar initiatives in future. Yeah.
Excellent. Us too.
And next up, of course, Leonard and I think will share more about partnership for Singapore Stories this year. Singapore Stories is, of course, initiative on Textiles, and we were, I think, very happy at ACM to be invited to be a partner this year. So perhaps, Leonard, would you want to share more about TEF's organization of this annual fashion design competition, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, so it's very much in line. I'm very jealous, by the way, of the fact that the students get to curate an exhibition in school. That opportunity is unparalleled, I think. I completely agree. And I think that it's the same reason we partner with ACM. It's the same reason that LaSalle is partnering with ACM and engaging their students. It's with the idea of engaging our cultural history, our material history in this part of the world, and the way in which we are interconnected with the rest of the world, in order to then build designs and brands that are interconnected and relevant and internationalized, and also innovative in terms of design, instead of being purely derivative or something that is not based in any kind of in academic context, right? And so the engagement with ACM for Singapore Stories was that in the competition, unfortunately, the engagement was kind of dampened a little bit by the fact that we all had to stay home for a large part of the competition. But we wanted the semi-finalists, actually, what the plan was that the semi-finalists would get a tour of the archives at the Heritage Conservation Center, and that Jackie and Kenny were going to give them a tour of like some really, really old and beautiful garments, as well as art pieces that they could draw inspiration from. Unfortunately, all of that had to be pushed to later in the year. But we did manage to get all 5 of the finalists in to take a look at that. At the same time, the finals were held at ACM because it was in the River Room overlooking the Singapore River, which I think is a perfect setting to find a finalist and a winner for the new kind of next phase of Singapore fashion. And then, of course, we had Jackie as a mentor for 2 fabulous mentees. How did you like that, Jackie? Did you find it worth your time?
Oh, I think that was an interesting invite from TEF. I think it was very interesting to get to know Adeline better. She's one of the finalists on the screen that you see, and I think it was quite from a curatorial point of view. I thought it was really an experience, like to know like on the ground what's happening to the designers now. I think some of them talk about the difficulties of why of actually making their creations for this particular edition of Singapore Stories competition because of COVID-19. So I understand that the finals date was pushed back. Is it 2 times or 3 times? Because of even like simple like issues or important basic issues like sourcing for materials. So it was interesting for me, and also it was interesting for me to see how they interpreted Singapore history. Because in particular, I think this is not the first Singapore Stories competition that TEF has organized, but we are very happy to partner particularly for this edition because of the theme of this year's competition, which is about time, right? Because we do believe that many of the best designs by the best the best designers actually reflect on the past. And of course, it's also, I know that TEF decided on this theme like before COVID-19, but what a
Yes.
theme, what a year, right? So
Yes.
it's a significant year for fashion, not only in Singapore, but worldwide, because designers really are striving for meaningful answers in this historic pandemic context. So I thought it was interesting how I could hear the designers talking about navigating that, both the thematic side of it, as well as so very importantly what you mentioned, which is the emphasis on craft. I think that continue to be something we emphasize at the museum, and I think it was I could see the hard work that the designers put to try to really bring out their best in this time. So do you want to share a bit about the collection, the stories or of each designer that we have on screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was, I think, amazing, and I'm sure that every one of us saw the finals, is that they were so diverse. So we had 5 finalists with 5 completely different collections. And then we go into HCC expecting like a generic, a few pieces, but Jackie's managed to find some almost exact inspiration piece for each and every designer, which really shows the diversity and wealth of the collection. So for Adeline, she was looking at the women of yesteryear. She looked at the Samsui woman, she looked at the police woman, she looked at Che Zahara. So using inspirational, iconic women and modernizing it for her design. Cara, on the other hand, looked at men because she was doing menswear and was looking at more graphic representations of horizons and skies.
Sorry, could we move on to 2 slides later so that, while you were sharing, this slide
yes.
would be great. So you can talk about,
okay. So on the left is Adeline, right?
Yeah.
In the Samsui woman. So that's she has a purse that looks like the Samsui woman's hat, as well as a brooch, which was, it's actually a brooch and not a Chinese knot button, which she did with a local jewelry designer. Then after that, we have Nida Shea, who looked at a lot of embroidery and botanical themes. Then we had Carol in the middle, who was the eventual winner, who also was looking at more modern versions of Singapore, the architecture. Then we have Cara, which I talked about the menswear. And then we have the last designer on the right, which is Mete, who was looking at batik and looking at modernizing resort wear versions of batik and really honing in on that Asian craftsmanship. Jackie, maybe you should share with us the individual pieces that you managed to find for these people.
Yeah, so I think that was a very good overview by Leonard. I thought to at least introduce the designers and their works, and then if you go back to the previous slide. Yes, so I think this was what Leonard was talking about. So we were very happy to support at ACM to be able to bring the semi-finalists to our Heritage Conservation Center to have a look at our collection. And I tried to match some of our pieces, some of the highlights in our collection to the research interest of the finalists. And I think it was really, a very meaningful viewing. We were very encouraged at the museum to see that because of this viewing, that I think at least 3 of the designers, they had pieces that were that reflected this particular viewing. So for example, I think what Leonard was talking about Matahu and her, of course, her specialization in batik on silk. So what I did was I showed her this piece that you see on screen, which is a 30s Elisa Van Zuylen, a very famous batik maker in the 30s. And of course, for Nida Shea, she is very well known for her exquisite embroidery. So I showed her this fabulous early 20th century Malay wedding tunic that we have our collection right in the center of this slide. So she also went on to create something in response. So I think for us, these are the kind of meaningful relationships or dialogues with TEF and with designers that we hope to continue to build on. Of course, I would say personally, one of my favorite museums is the Vna Museum in London. And we do know, of course, that like great designers, English designers, Alexander McQueen, they would go to like the Vna to see their archives, to draw out things, to look at craftsmanship of the past, and think about how they could do it today or do it their own way. So similarly, I think for us, this is a way we do hope to reach out more to designers out there and students as well, that we have a collection here at ACM. It is of course not the same as the Vna, but the stories that we tell, the pieces that we collect, are of course about Asia in fashion. And if you're interested in telling this kind of stories, this is the collection that we have to offer. So it was very nice, I think, to work with already practicing designers in the TEF competition to see this kind of dynamic exchange. And of course, again, this is a very special year.
Yeah,
And
but Jackie, I wanted to add, like, that what you're saying about the archives is very, very important, and it's how we can use your archives at the ACM for inspiration. And I think that's kind of two great examples we have here with TAF's project, and how you gave access to practicing designers, and also to the students who had to work with pieces also from the archive.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, before I forget, that this visit to HCC was really also possible due to my great colleagues, the conservators, as well as collection managers at Heritage Conservation Center. I think what we tried to do was also to show the designers not only the pieces, but also how the facility works. In a way, this is the kind of service that we provide at museums and our Heritage Conservation Center, that great pieces of fashion design are really meant to, in a way, educate and inspire future generations. And we put a lot of effort in that at our facility in Singapore. When the things are not on display, they are carefully stored in this facility, and they are carefully treated and prepared before they go for every exhibition. So it was interesting, I think, for us to be able to also show it to the designers. And because, who knows, the designers that come through, one day, of course, they will be the next Alexander McQueen, for example, and then they will know where their pieces will end up very safely.
And the rest of the museum is incredibly relevant as well. I think that one of Meta's finalist pieces actually drew on some porcelain, which you have a fantastic collection of at the museum. Your blue and white porcelain. So I think the whole, and I think the whole thing for us, and the reason we engage, and I'm sure the reason Ceci engages, is because the museum, in its conservation, its effort to preserve and celebrate the past and our history, is so relevant to the present. And a lot of people like to segment museums out as being old and stodgy, or just something you go to as a tourist, but you don't really engage with in your daily life. And we really wanted to change that for our designers in this competition. So don't just go out to a park and look at a tree and make something up, but also look at your history, also look at things that have been done before, and engage with our cultural landscape. That was something that was so important to us.
But in this specific project, really looking at archives gives you that possibility of using this specific material culture to tell, to create these powerful visual narratives. So through design, or through, again, as we were saying, photography, or within the exhibition context, which is exciting, Jackie, and we're really happy to be part of that ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, from our perspective.
Today, when I was thinking about the talk, the title of our talk, I mean, in a way, I do feel that that's how, in a way, all three of us could work together. Of course, the museums, we really collect the past. Even today becomes the past tomorrow. And then for, of course, Leonard and TEF, it's very much about trying to help, like, the practicing and current designers and people in the system now. And of course, at LaSalle, Ceci is really like preparing them for the future, of this whole ecosystem. So I note that we are running a bit out of time, and I'm very sure the audience want to know more about the final question that I had for both of you, which is, what are your exciting projects in the pipeline next year? So maybe we can have Ceci maybe start about that.
Next year, like, okay, do we have a well, actually, this is not happening next year. This is happening launching next Monday, which is our level 2.
Fine as well, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, level 2 fashion media and industries and fashion design and textile students that are presenting this amazing digital exhibition called Phantasm. And you can follow us at One McNally Fashion. So you will see this. It's a multi-layer fashion digital experience, really. And again, through the use of visual images, photography, filmography, the students explore different stages of identity through the topics of suffocation, transformation, and liberation. And I'm super happy to say that they were directed by one of our most important stylists in Singapore, Furkan Saini, and also one of our lecturers at LaSalle, Rohai Afzar. And so I hope you like it. This is going to be very exciting.
It already looks very exciting on the screen.
Yes, they've done amazing work. So yay. So yeah, that's all. I mean, next year, yeah, there are a lot of things going on. Some projects I still can talk about, but I will be revealing as we go.
Yes, so stay tuned. And Leonard, do you want to maybe share?
Yeah, I think I also have a slide for things in the pipeline. So everyone, please feel free to just take a photo of this because I'm going to just breeze right through it. So in the pipeline, we have a couple of things happening. Shopping opportunities, the Red Letter Sale, Design Orchard, One Orchard Store is all on there. Support local fashion because if we want to create change in our country, we have to invest in it. And now more than ever, when we can't really travel, is the best time to kind of support local businesses and shop. And we have another key event for a very underserved segment of the population, our men. So there's a men's fashion event called TAF Trunks that's happening in February. The details are on there. And then there's the Singapore Stories open call. If anybody is a designer out there and wants to enter this competition and stand a chance to possibly win an exhibition space at ACM, that would be fantastic. All our socials, websites are on there. And you can email me, leonardchu@taf.org.sg if you have any questions.
And then finally, I would say that at ACM, in closing, I always get this question. And yes, you know, the Curator team, we are working very hard to get the Vna Museum, which is our sister museum, ready to reopen by end of 2022. And for Vna Museum, I'm curating the Fashion and Textiles Gallery together with my colleague Dominic Loh. And we are planning for it to be much more than just sarong kebaya when we reopen. There will be other representations of other styles that Peranakans wear and wore, much more accessories, and also a much more stronger contemporary component. Personally, I find the concept of contemporary Peranakan style very fascinating because this cross-cultural style with global origins is very much embraced by the broader Singapore public today as a local style. So I think it's this gallery, when it open, I think would be a platform for more conversations about what is Singapore style, what is Southeast Asian style. So on that front, I think I will again keep you hanging, and we will be sharing more as we go along. But yes, the Vna Museum, we are working on it, coming 2022. So I think with this, we've come to the end of this month's conversations, Fashion in Singapore, the Past, Present, and Future. I want to thank all the speakers for sharing today, because I think it has certainly given our audiences a lot to think about and to anticipate. And I hope that everybody walk away from this session with a renewed idea of the changing landscape of fashion in Singapore that is, of course, also connected beyond our shores. And right now, we'll move on quickly to Q&A, whereby we'll take a few questions from the Facebook chat thread. I hope our sharing spark something for everybody today. So let me have a look at our Facebook chat. Right, there is a question about our new gallery. So Miss Anne Go, could we bring that question up? Yes, yeah. So the question is that so Anne is asking, why is there a new interest in creating a gallery for fashion and textiles, and what other exhibitions we can look forward to at the museum. So definitely, I would say that at ACM, our collection actually of fashion and textiles did not start last year. You know, the museum opened in 1997, and we have been collecting. But of course, what is new is that now we have this permanent gallery. It is an emphasis now on, I think very excitingly, that at ACM we join museums abroad in recognizing in a way, the potential of the very strong potential of dress and fashion as a field of academic study, how we can understand people and history and culture through fashion as an art form. And the other, I think, reason why we're having it now, also, I think it's because, of course, there's, as the study, the field of fashion history evolves, and there's a lot of, I think now, there's a lot of greater interest and awareness of global fashion history. I think this is where at ACM we do feel that we have the responsibility and also the potential to be part of that conversation, particularly positioning Asia in global fashion narratives. So Kopei for us last year was, of course, an experiment in a way to see the interest levels in Singapore, and we are very happy that I think the exhibition closed as one of our 3 most visited exhibitions here. So that, in short, that's my short answer why we're doing it. And other exhibitions we can look forward to. I think right now we still have to keep it under wraps for a while, but we do have, we are in talks with 2 major designers to do exhibitions coming up. And also at our fashion and textiles gallery, we do rotations, as I mentioned, and we in that space we are a lot more focused really on also continuing our to be a platform to study historic fashion textiles. So that I hope answers the question. There is a question about how to access HCC archives. So for that question about how to go to HCC, definitely our Heritage Conservation Centre, which is at 32 Jurong Port Road, is not a place that you can just walk in. So I am very grateful for this question. You have to make an appointment, but with our friendly colleagues at Heritage Conservation Centre. But they do, when you make an appointment, they would they do periodic tours of the facility through booking an appointment. So you can go to their website to find out more. So yes, there is a question coming in about the question that just came in from Christensen to Ceci and Noel. What are the current problems in the fashion landscape of Singapore? Perhaps Ceci, would you want to start? What are these current problems that or challenges perhaps that you see in?
I think the examples we gave today of sharing our practice and also working more in collaboration is something that it's becoming more intimate, more intricate. And I think if we collaborate more across the board of all the fashion industry and help each other and help younger designers and younger image makers and again, the younger generations and existing designers to excel and to go to international markets and everything, I think that will help. I think the challenges we can overcome are through working as a real collaborative system and as working more in tight collaboration between all the institutions, the media, TAF, education, museums.
Yeah.
Leonard, would you like to add on?
Yeah, I think problems is a very scary word. I would say challenges so that we can overcome them, but I totally understand what Christensen is asking. I would say for me, what we see often is our physical limitations. We are small. It is difficult to get resources, and our market is quite small. So those are challenges that designers need to address when they begin their business, how they want to grow, given the limited market size. And then the second challenge that is key is that we are very young as a country, right? We don't have 400 years of textile history that was started by Louis XIV, right? So you have questions of national identity, questions of material history and material culture, questions of what it means to have a Singapore silhouette, a Singapore texture. These are all questions I think that businesses need to find themselves faced with as a challenge. And that is why we work with the museum. That is why we work with people like Cersei in the school to try and mitigate those inherent youthful growth issues. And TAF by its own tries to help with the other issue of the smallness of our current market by giving them international tools to scale beyond these shores, to find other markets so that they can become globally competitive.
Well, I think you make a very interesting comment about Singapore being a young nation and how we can think about the concept of Singapore fashion. I think this is a fascinating topic. What is Singapore fashion? Do we have Singapore fashion? What is it, right? And I would say that at ACM, as I mentioned, we hope to be part of the conversation and actually try to use, I think, Singapore's history. It is not 400 years, but we are definitely not 1965. That's what I often tell people. Actually, I think Singapore is definitely before 1965, and I think our collection at ACM and also at Vna Museum, I think show in a way what people wore before us. What I personally find very interesting is this, I think, perhaps anxiety in Singapore about this question of like, do we have a Singapore style? And I would think that it depends on how that question is answered and approached. And I do feel that what people are wearing already gives you a sense of what people are expressing in their identities and what they think about Singapore. And it's I think through competitions like TAF, this Singapore Stories, as well as through our collaboration on Singapore Fashion Now with LaSalle, that we continue to explore this very important question, which I do feel that there's no one answer, no one correct answer. Definitely, of course, we can't immediately say like, we don't, I think we are still building, we are still trying to answer that question. I think it is an interesting question to think about. And I think our collaborations will be working towards that.
Mm-hmm. But I think if the industry supports each other more, I think we will make it happen. We just have to work towards one goal, everyone. Then it will happen. Which I think we are on our way.
Yes.
To doing
Kampong spirit, right?
I think we would all agree. I think it was this year. Nobody can travel. Everybody is here, and everyone's thinking how to be creative in reaching out to each other. And I'm sure, I think we also talk about how we've all also been working with fashion media in Singapore. And this year, I think I am hopeful that I think something is going to slowly build over time. And I think this year has been quite good for these collaborations of coming together.
And also, any crisis gives an opportunity to rethink the way we do things, the way we create, the way we manage, the way we think, the way we feel. I think what we all learned and lived in 2020 gives us a great opportunity to redefine what fashion means.
Well, definitely. And do you have any final comments before we end the session? I can see that we have also taken most of the questions as well. So just want to say thank you again, everybody, for sharing, and to our audience for tuning in, and for the people also who have contributed questions. Before we end the live stream, we will appreciate your feedback on today's session. We're going to flash a QR code soon on the screen. Do let us know your thoughts through the QR code. If there's any topic that you heard today you'd like us to expand in future webinars, do indicate in this survey. And also, if you know someone who would be interested in this program but couldn't join us today, we have recorded this and it will be available on our Facebook and YouTube channel in a few hours' time. Conversations is a program we host every 2 months on the second Friday of each month. Topics range from today's spotlight on the Singapore fashion scene to behind the scenes work that our museum staff do. So please look out for details on our next Conversations program on the 19th of February in 2021. So I just want to say a big thank you again to Ceci and Leonard for joining us today. It has been such a wonderful year working with both of you, accumulating in this talk today. And actually, because of this talk, we have to keep within 1 hour, right? But normally I could just go on and on with you guys.
Yeah.
So we're going to take the conversation offline now. And I just want to wish everybody who is tuning in, wishing all of you a very lovely weekend. Stay safe and well. Everybody, goodbye.
Bye, Jackie. Bye, Leonard. Thank you.